Good day guys, this is Patrick A. Sabid, a third-year BS Electrical Engineering student, currently enrolled in ECE 37 Microprocessor. This video is for the compliance in our performance task Module 2 for Engineer Norman Mabalot. In this video, I will show and explain to you the difference between the specifications of a 2 CPU. Specifically, I will be focusing on a AMD A10-9700k and AMD A9-9420. So let's start. First of all, I will introduce to you the first CPU, which is the AMD A10-9700k. This CPU was present to a computer. The first release of the CPU was September 2016, in which it costs about 3,842.60 pesos. On the other hand, we have the AMD A9-9420 released June 2016, but in this CPU, the first released price was not given from my sources, but a laptop which has this kind of CPU costs about 23,500 pesos. For the CPU benchmarking results, this photo was the benchmarking results of AMD A10-9700k. It is a Radeon R7 with a threading of 1 CPU, 4 core, 4 threads at a frequency of 3692.52 MHz. For the AMD A9-9420, it is a Radeon R5 and has a threading of 1 CPU, 2 core, and 2 threads at a frequency of 3592.72 MHz. So next, we have the specifications. For AMD A10-9700k, it has 4 cores, 4 threads, 3.5 GHz base clock, and 3.8 GHz boost clock. On the other hand, we have AMD A9-9420, which has 2 cores, 2 threads, 3.0 GHz base clock, and 3.6 GHz boost clock. Next, for its cache, the AMD A10-9700k has a 4 MB cache, 28 nanometer processor, 65 watts TDP, and a socket code of AM4. On the other hand, for the AMD A9-9420, its cache was not given, a 28 nanometer processor, and 15 watts TDP, and a socket code of FT4. So next, its single and multi-core score. For the AMD A10-9700k, it has a multi-core score of 757, while its single-core score is 235. And for AMD A9-9420, it has a multi-core score of 349 and a single-core score of 205. So, to compare AMD A10-9700k versus AMD A9-9420 for another benchmarking program, which is GEEKBENCH benchmark. For AMD A10-9700k, it has a single core score of 499 and a multi-core score of 1519. For AMD A9-9420, it has a single core score of 255 and multi-core score of 384. So for a PASSMARK benchmark, the single thread rating of AMD A10-9700 is 1647 and the cross-platform rating is 6140. For AMD A9-9420, it has a single thread rating of 1302 and a cross-platform rating of 2935. So for its average CPU mark, again for AMD A10-9700k, it has 3583, and for AMD A9-9420, it has 1511. So for its single and multi-core score, the AMD A10-9700k based on PASSMARK, it has a multi-core score of 6140 again, and a single core score of 1647. For AMD A9-9420, it has a multi-core score of 2935 and a single core score of 132. So for the multi-threaded comparison, as you can see in the 3 benchmarking programs, it is obviously that the AMD A10-9700k leads, or it is greater, or its results are greater than when compared to AMD A9-9420. So I think AMD A10-9700k is much better than AMD A9-9420. For its multi-threaded per TDP watts, the AMD A10-9700k results at 11.64615,385, and AMD A9-9420 results 23.2666667 for its multi-core score per TDP watts. As you can see, the AMD A10-9700k has a lower result for its multi-core or multi-threaded per TDP watts, since it has a greater power consumption, since AMD A10-9700k is present in a computer, while AMD A9-9420, since it is a low power consumption, it is present in a laptop. It has a low TDP watts, which is almost 15 watts when compared to AMD A10-9700k, which has 65 watts. That is why AMD A10-9700k has a low multi-threaded per TDP watts score compared to AMD A9-9420. So in conclusion, both CPU have different results in terms of their score on their performance and specs test, but it is very obvious that AMD A10-9700k is much better than AMD A9-9420. Actually, AMD A10-9700k was the CPU of a computer, while the AMD A9-9420 was only for a laptop. And maybe that is why AMD A10-9700k always lead AMD A9-9420 for almost all the scores given by 3 different benchmarking program results. Lastly, I would like to add that if we want to buy a processor for our setup, especially laptops and PCs, we must always check its specs and performance in the internet. Internet, again, is a very wide space for all information we need for something, and we must also use or utilize the use of benchmarking programs in order to know the capacity of our gadgets in processing and calculating programs and applications it has. In that way, we can either limit our gadgets in applications we know they can't handle, or be confident in using it since we know in advance its capability. So that would be all for this video. I hope you have learned something, and stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.